Welcome to Open Minds Radio with your host, Alejandro Rojas, former official spokesperson for the Mutual UFO Network. Alejandro has been a UFO paranormal researcher and journalist for nearly a decade and has logged hours in the field investigating the paranormal up close and personal. And now Open Minds Radio presents evidence and the latest news regarding the UFO phenomenon. Here's your host, Alejandro Rojas.
Hello and welcome to Open Minds Radio, your UFO news authority all around the world. We're international. We cover news from everywhere. We've been talking a lot about China, England. It's just awesome how we're able to do that. Today's guest is super cool. Her name is Deddie Ziigamire. She's the sister to my buddy Chuck Zukowski, who I've had on a couple times, and she's my buddy too, of course. And you can see some pictures, you know, if you've looked online and seen us at the debris site, Chuck and Debbie, and the Open Minds crew, at least some of us. So we had a lot of fun out there with her, but she helped found, really, she did it mostly herself, to be honest. She helped found the MUFON dive team, which is pretty cool. Essentially, she's a dive instructor, and they put this together so they can go dive under the ocean or large lakes, because there have been situations with the Great Lakes, like you've heard on this show before, of possible UFOs under the water. So they could go down there and check it out. So she's going to tell us about that certification she did for the MUFON dive team and some of that stuff. Really interesting and cool stuff. She's also the state director for MUFON in Missouri, and they've got some interesting stuff out there. She's been part of Ted Phillips' group investigating the Marley Woods, which is a mysterious place, kind of like the ranch in Utah we've talked about, where there's lots of weird stuff going on, like lights in the forest and things like that. People reportedly seeing beings coming in and out of portals. She's also got some other mysterious areas out there, and they've had a lot of orange UFOs being seen lately, similar to what's been happening in the UK, although they've been saying that those are Chinese lanterns. Interesting enough, and I'm excited to talk about this, because just like a good MUFON researcher should do, Debbie was able to find some information about that as well, and we'll talk more about that. So she's a great researcher, great person. We'll have her on in a little bit. And speaking of MUFON, we just got back from the Mutual UFO Network Symposium, which was held this weekend. Got to see some of my buddies, and happy to say there's always rumors about MUFON, because, of course, like the intro says, I used to be the spokesperson for them, so I'd get, you know, all kinds of crazy questions asked of me about the group. So there's always some kind of controversy with them, just because they're the largest group. I think that's just the issue, is that they're so big and everybody expects so much out of them that it's hard to please everyone. But you know what? Despite whatever rumors are going on right now, they're running really strong. They've got a good leadership. There's been some changes, a few slight changes, some additions, some people moving on. And we're going to talk to more of their leadership as well, some of the other business board members, the group that really runs MUFON. We'll be talking to them on our show very soon. I've been talking to them about that. In fact, I've probably had on my show the most MUFON board members than any other show, and people don't realize that there is this board that really runs a lot of what goes on with MUFON at their headquarters. So that's going to be a lot of fun talking to more of them. Clifford Cliff, who we've had on the show, and you all know he was a lot of fun. He's just a really funny and nice guy, so it was really cool to have him emceeing the award ceremonies and giving out awards. And their MC, by the way, for the symposium for the last 6 years or something has been John Greenwald, who runs blackbolt.com, and that was a lot of fun too. You'll be able to see pictures, and you can actually hear some of our shows on Black Bolt Radio. He invited us to put some shows up there. So a lot of fun. Speaking of fun, the UFO Congress this year, we had a lot of questions about the Congress, how it's going to go, where it's going to be. It's going to be in Phoenix, as you all know, in the Phoenix metro area, in a place called Fort McDowell, in the Yavapai Nation Indian reservation, a beautiful place, and people were really excited about that. It's going to be a lot of fun. So hang tight, people. You're going to be able to get a lot more information and see our cool new UFO Congress website really soon here. That's at ufocongress.com. And if you ever have any confusion about what's who and who's what, you can go to openminds.tv, where you're going to find, among other things, UFOs in the news. So there's a lot of news on UFOs all around the world, and we have our news correspondent, Jason McClellan, here to tell us more about what's going down.
Greetings, Alejandro.
Greetings, my friend.
Hello, Phoenix, and hello, world. This is your Open Minds news brief for Monday, July 26, 2010. MSN reported a UFO spotted over the Turan Beach Resort of Malaysia last week. The object was witnessed by several resort staff members and was described as floating and emitting a blue and green light. Then the object vanished in the blink of an eye. Some witnesses claimed to have captured images of the object on their cell phones, while others claimed that when they attempted to capture the object on their phones, the phones mysteriously went dead. And Alejandro, this seems to happen not regularly, but it does happen sometimes with people trying to capture a UFO on video cameras, on phones. We've seen a lot of anomalies with video cameras on the actual video, but then the camera's shutting down and then starting up again.
Yeah, of course, this is one of the things that spans with other paranormal research where you're in areas of high activity where the batteries die. But I have heard over and over again in reports and investigations that even though a UFO may seem like miles away, that somehow it knows when you're trying to videotape it and it won't let you. It'll zip away or the cameras won't work. And I mean, that sounds extraordinary, doesn't sound possible, but when you see so many of these reports, it's got to make you wonder.
It seems to happen, more than just a random occurrence every once in a while.
Yep. I personally believe there's something to it.
It's fascinating. Crop circles. A 3D crop circle appeared in the UK on Clay Hill and Warminster last week. The sophisticated design is 200 feet wide, and when viewed from above, an optical illusion gives the design a 3D effect. This crop circle is now being linked to UFO activity. Apparently, orange lights in the sky were observed by multiple witnesses on the night before the crop circle appeared.
Yeah. Lots of balls of lights and things with the crop circles, and it's what the heck's going on with those UFOs?
You never know what's going on with those UFOs. CBS reprinted a story from Discover magazine last week that suggests how extraterrestrials might be trying to contact us. Groups like SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence here on Earth that listen for signals from extraterrestrials, are often strapped for cash and operate with very small budgets. This article from Discover magazine suggests that the notion perhaps extraterrestrials who may be trying to send us signals, they might be strapped for cash themselves. They might be starving scientist aliens, and they could be trying to use a more budget-friendly method to try to contact us. The article suggests that budget-conscious extraterrestrial scientists would probably be selective in their broadcast, limiting their transmission to frequencies with less astronomical background noise and sending only short pulses rather than energy-hogging continuous broadcasts.
It's so funny because really at the Comic-Con here in Phoenix, we had the scientists Paul Davies and Seth Shostak, and they're thinking fiscally, around this, which, of course, SETI, even though it sounds like great to us because they have millions of dollars, really they have to think fiscally and how they spend their energy. So they're thinking a lot of how aliens would spend their energy and how, like you're saying, you would want to do short bursts so they can save their energy. So they're not spending too much so they don't get too high of an electrical bill.
But I really like seeing this. This is refreshing to me because, again, we've talked about it before, but I think there's an overgeneralization with extraterrestrials. There seems to, more often than not, be this assumption that they must be super technologically advanced and perfect in every way. And recently, Stephen Hawking also with his comments comparing aliens to humans, thinking, what would we do if we were out there looking at other worlds? And I think it's a fresh approach thinking that, don't overgeneralize it. Not all extraterrestrials are going to be the same. They're not going to. So I don't know. I think it's
fresh, and at least they're thinking about it and really spending time to talk about it.
Right.
I think that's really cool. But I mean, they're going to be technologically so further along that I think some of these type of ideas, it's worth talking about, but they're awfully terrestrial and ideas.
Absolutely.
Very contemporary.
Well, speaking of Comic-Con, last week at Comic-Con in San Diego, Sony unveiled its new film, Battle Los Angeles, based on the 1942 air raid, where a UFO allegedly appeared over the city of Los Angeles, initiating air raid sirens and the firing of more than 1,400 anti-aircraft shells. Battle Los Angeles is scheduled for release next year. That sounds like a cool movie.
Well, it looks cool, although it's going to be it's not going to be about the 1942 incident. It's going to be modern day, but I guess they're going to refer to some of the old incidents.
I think so, and I think they might have some real footage from the 1942 incident.
Wow, that'd be incredible.
Unreleased footage. I don't know how they got that.
Wow.
But I could tell they took liberties because they were talking about their creative process when they tried to figure out how they were going to design the alien.
Yeah,
and
right.
There wasn't any contact with an alien.
But we do have in our magazine an article written by Richard Dolan on 1942 with some cool graphics. So that's going to be out in the stores in the next couple of weeks. And, of course, you can get it online.
Absolutely. I have more news, Alejandro, but I'll wrap it up and remind people.
Well, you got time for one more.
One more?
You can do it.
I can squeeze it in. All right, we've been following the story of the airport in China that shut down after seeing a UFO in its airspace a couple weeks ago. Investigations have yet to determine what exactly was in the skies above the airport, but what officials have determined is precisely what you and I were talking about last week, Alejandro, is that this photo that was circulating around the Internet, everybody was saying, oh, this is the object that was above the airport. It was nothing more than an airplane.
Right.
I figured that out.
Which is what it looked like.
It had nothing to do with that incident.
Right.
But that particular incident, the particular object that was above the airport, they still have no idea what it was.
Still a complete unknown. So don't get confused with those stories, people. They still don't know what's going on there.
That's right. We'll follow the story and post updates on openminds.tv. And you can read more about these stories and more at openminds.tv, your source for UFO-related news. I'm Jason McClellan, your Open Minds news correspondent, and you've been briefed.
All right. Thank you, Jason. OpenMinds.tv is super cool. We've got some MUFON news there. Also, some other great photographic cases from decades ago that were retrieved by Wendell Stevens. We have a story on Major Fournet, who actually was a liaison with the Air Force and Project Blue Book, and some information about Colonel Corso on the anniversary of his death. So check it out, openminds.tv. We will be back right after this with Deddie Ziigamire, the MUFON State Director in Missouri. Stay tuned.
Open Minds Production is proud to present the 20th anniversary of the International UFO Congress, coming to its new home at the Radisson Fort McDowell Resort and Casino in Scottsdale, Arizona. This is the premier annual event for UFO researchers, enthusiasts, and the general public with an interest in mysterious phenomena. Come listen to expert ufologists, government officials, and respected scientists presenting information relating to UFOs, extraterrestrials, crop circles, abductions, cover-ups, and more at the largest UFO conference in the country. The 20th anniversary of the International UFO Congress takes place February 23rd through February 27th. Visit ufocongress.com for more information, including sponsorship and vendor opportunities.
You're listening to Open Minds Radio with Alejandro Rojas on KFNX News Talk Radio 1100.
All right, welcome back to Open Minds Radio, your UFO news authority, and I believe we have the Queen of Ufology, the new Queen of Ufology. That's what I'm going to name you, Debbie. Debbie Ziigamire. How are you doing?
Just fine. Good morning.
Yeah, right. It's really early out there, huh?
Yeah, where I am, yeah. So it's a little bit early, but...
In the wee little minutes of the morning.
That's okay, or late hours, I guess, depending on where you are.
Yep, well, thanks for hanging in there for us and being on the show. So I want to talk about some of the cool stuff you've done, which, mounts every day. But the dive team, and now, I don't know, is MUFON dive team like officially still going or anything?
Well, the dive team, we started the dive team about, I guess 4 or 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I just spoke with Cliff, the international director for MUFON, and we're discussing how to actually reorganize it and bring it back.
Awesome.
What I had were divers from, I had about 45 divers, volunteers from as far north as Alaska as far south as St. Thomas, and lots of people interested in helping out.
Cool. So what did that entail? I mean, you had a whole certification program to get on this team?
Well, no, actually, our initial team, I trained the first underwater UFO search and recovery class in Missouri. Did it at a Corey and Rolla. We had a dozen graduates from that. It's PADI certified, and actually it was navigation and search and recovery PADI certified, and then gave them a certificate for the UFO search and recovery course. And the volunteers have to be certified divers. And they were basically, when you're a diver, it's good to know the terrain that you're in, basically your water, your dive shops, and that type of thing, backup, shore supports, plus some additional help on the water. Divers don't dive unless they dive in pairs. And so we have volunteers to help out across the country. Cool.
So did you, take one of the secret UFOs out of the MUFON underground vault and throw it in the water and have them recover it?
No, actually, what we did was we took a 10-foot in diameter satellite dish, put legs on it, and painted it fluorescent colors, and dropped it 30 foot down in very cold water in a quarry. It's a training quarry, a diving training quarry, and worked very well. We did that, and we hit different things across the quarry, and had 8 dives over 2 days, and had these individuals find them, men and women. They did a very good job.
Wow, that's really cool.
And by the way, the UFO's still there.
No, it is.
Yes, it is.
So it's still there for you to continue your training.
Yes, and I guess it's still an attraction there in the quarry for any other divers that want to go down and see it.
Oh, neat. That's really cool. So with the dive team, or just as a MUFON investigator, have you ever got to go do a dive investigation?
Came close a couple times. It ended up that they found out what it was ahead of time. I'd like to head to Puerto Rico. There's a lot of shallow water in and around Puerto Rico, around the reefs where things have been sighted. The problem we have right now is a lot of the craft coming in and out of the water have been extremely deep, way deeper than a certified diver can go down to. But 1 in 5 UFO or unidentified craft sightings, they're reported in and around water. And there's a lot of ponds, there's a lot of rivers, lakes. There's no reason why there shouldn't be somebody looking for trace evidence in these areas. I have all the equipment, I have a substantial amount of equipment to help me look for trace evidence, and a lot of volunteers, so we're hopeful. We're trying to get reorganized.
Yeah. Isn't it a high percentage of UFO sightings that have to do with a body of water?
Yes, 1 in 5.
Wow.
1 in 5 are water-related.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. Luckily, I talked to Carl Feindt, who does the underwater UFO stuff. He was at the MUFON Symposium, so were you. So hopefully I'll have him on soon. I'm excited about that.
I'm hoping we can get together and get organized and get something done.
Yeah, they need to outfit you with a deep water submarine then.
Oh, yeah. Well, I have some equipment. I have an LED screen and with hooked to a little camera with 150 foot of cord, so I can see 150 foot down. I'm also a PADI scuba instructor, and I'm certified to 130 feet, even though I have been farther down. I have an underwater metal detector, sonar, video camera, a couple different kinds of regular digital still shot, film, several different kinds of cameras, and a lot of interesting equipment. we're able to go down and search, and if there's something down there, I have every confidence that we'll be able to find something if we get the opportunity.
Cool. Well, contact us.
May not necessarily be a UFO, but at least
right.
we'll answer some questions.
Yeah. So you can contact openminds.tv or MUFON if you know of something out there, any of you listeners, that perhaps needs to be investigated that is under the water, under the sea.
Oh, exactly. If you want to contact MUFON Missouri, we're at it's MUFONmissouri.org.
Okay, perfect.
Is our website.
Now, getting into some of the other more exciting things you do in just a minute, but I wanted to talk about what got you interested in UFO investigation.
Oh, wow. Good question. I have no idea. I grew up in Arizona.
Uh-huh.
I grew up in Stafford, Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
And we had just a brilliant nighttime sky. And my brother Chuck Zukowski and I used to go out and just stargaze. We both always had telescopes. And I kind of from there, I guess, you look at the sky and you start to wonder, and especially a night sky, and then you see, things that you're not sure of. And that's kind of how it started. I started seeing things, and then now, a lot of satellites, but I have seen some things that I really can't explain. So I think probably the answer to the question is I want to know what the truth is. And the only way to hunt for the truth is to seek it.
Now, how long have you been a MUFON investigator?
Only about 10 years. I was involved raising a family before that, and I did do independent investigating on my own for at least 10 years before that, but officially MUFON investigator for 10 years.
Wow. So you've still 20 years, and I know you're an extremely busy person with several businesses, an award-winning Olympiad as a child or for a child.
Right. I guess that's you let the cat out of the bag there. My daughter's a 2-time Winter Olympic medalist, so I was an Olympic mom for several years.
Yeah. So it's
she was a short track speed skating.
Mm-hmm. So it's incredible you find time to do all of this.
I set my watch to 25 hours.
You can do that? I need one of those watches. Although that extra hour I would sleep.
Yeah, I might use that tonight. I got in here into Orlando at 4 o'clock this morning.
Eek. So you're, as usual, very busy. I know one of the cases that you looked into out there was the Marley Woods. And maybe you can describe to the audience a little bit of what happens or some of the mystery and why the woods are special.
Marley Woods, that's an investigation Ted Phillips has been working on since 1998, at least. And what they have is there's ongoing, I guess, some kind of a phenomenon, I guess is the best way to describe it. There's been everything from mysterious lights in the sky to...
we've got to take a break real quick, and we'll get into the Marley Woods right after this, so stay tuned.
Open Minds Magazine, the exciting new publication by Open Minds Production, is in stores now. Open Minds Magazine is your look inside the fascinating world of UFO-related phenomena, including extraterrestrials, abductions, cattle mutilations, crop circles, alien implants, and more. Open Minds Magazine provides readers with current research, investigations, and news, all delivered in a stunning graphical presentation. Pick up your copy today and prepare to have your mind opened. That's Open Minds Magazine, available now at Barnes & Noble, Borders, and online at openminds.tv.
This is Open Minds Radio. Here again, your host, UFO paranormal researcher and journalist, Alejandro Rojas.
Hello and welcome back. Don't forget, at openminds.tv, you can go watch us live. You can see a lovely picture that I took of Debbie in Roswell. And you can also chat and ask some questions. So we got some chatters online now. Thanks for joining us. And we're back.
Great.
We were talking about the mysterious Marley Woods before I had to cut you off. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay.
And you were talking about some of the strange phenomena there.
Right. I was fortunate enough to work on that site with Ted Phillips for a little over a year. There's been mysterious lights. There's back years ago, there's a possible crash site, a landing site. They've had, I guess, reports of strange entities. It's basically an ongoing investigation and an ongoing live, I guess, series of phenomena going on there. So, I mean, it's basically research. There's constant research that can be going on, and it's a mysterious place. Nobody knows why or, exactly what is going on, but they're gathering a lot of information, and so maybe someday we can find out what makes that area so special.
It seems like people are discovering more and more of these areas. We had the Utah Ranch, the Skinwalker Ranch out there that the NIDS people, Bigelow's people looked into. We've got Marley Woods, which is probably the next one that came along. And then there's a place in Oregon that people have been talking about. I know Angela Joyner on her radio show has been talking about this. And I think, was it you who also found a second site out there in Missouri?
As MUFON State Director of Missouri, I'm surprised at how many reports of strange lights that I get that are across southern Missouri. Southern Missouri seems to be a very active area. There's also been the Joplin spook light that's been around for generations, and they haven't figured out what that is yet.
What is that, the Johnson spook light?
It's called the Spook Light, and it's in Joplin, Missouri. You can look that up online. They even go as far as I found directions directly to it online. So it's been there just for generations. The light that just appears. At first, they thought maybe it was a train light. They thought it was highway traffic. People go out there and watch this light appear and then disappear. There's no rhyme or reason to it, but it's been going on long enough to where it's got a name.
Very strange. And in your state, you had a lot of reports of these orange orbs as well, right?
In my state, which time? We do have them across the state. We had a lot reported. You mean around 4th of July?
Right.
4th of July, we had, we had about 21, we had 21 MUFON CMS cases, case management system cases, and we ended up, out of those, 8 of them so far are unknown. We did have a little bit of a circumstance where we ended up with sky lanterns. I guess they call them Chinese lanterns. We had about 9 of those reported. Several counties here in the state of Missouri have firework stands, which I believe June 20th through the 10th of July, and then there's about a weekend around New Year's Eve where they can also sell fireworks here. And we have fireworks stands that are up year-round that are legal. It's not legal to shoot the fireworks though. And unfortunately, in the last 4 or 5 years, they started selling these sky lanterns, which are they're just made out of paper with a candle underneath. And so we've had a few of those, but we had 9 sightings that we absolutely, in and around 4th of July, absolutely could not figure out what they were, and they did involve some type of orange lights in the sky.
Interesting. Now, those lanterns that you investigated, how large are they?
Oh, my gosh. I would say probably look to be about 3 foot. I've got some on order. I haven't received them yet. I was in Roswell, New Mexico when this was going on in my state, and I got on my computer. I take my computer with me so I can keep up on what's going on, and I came back just in time to interview some people at fireworks stands, and they'd already sold out of them. But wow. I know they were for sale in the state of Missouri where they sold Black Cat and TNT fireworks.
So 3 foot tall.
They're about 3 foot tall, paper. You light a candle on the bottom of them, and then they go up and they travel with the wind. Depending on how much breeze you have, they can be up between 3 and 10, 15 minutes. They sell for $5, $6 online, and they had them in limited quantities at fireworks stands. Those, and it was easy enough to identify them when they were going across the sky. I had several reports in one area that they saw an orange ball of light go across the sky with a flame on the bottom. And then we had one of the witnesses who reported actually find one in their tree. So we kind of checked the pattern, the flight pattern of the other sightings, and one of them was across the street from a fireworks stand.
Uh-huh.
So, we were fairly certain, but, you can never be 100% sure what that is. But there were 8 sightings in the area in Missouri and around that week that we just absolutely couldn't explain, and strange balls of light.
Well, it's surprising to me, you hear a lot about those in the UK, but I didn't know they were selling those at the fireworks stands. And I know because I had read about Peter Davenport also reporting a large amount of sightings that he received over the 4th of July weekend, but then another paper wrote those were probably mostly Chinese lanterns, and I thought that was kind of silly until I heard that they were selling them at the stands.
Well, and it depends on the description, too. I had a description at one point of something that was over the top of a house, the size of a house, the treetops, and it was big and orange. And, I had some of the locals say, well, we thought that might have been a Chinese lantern. No, they're absolutely not that big. They're not way up in the sky, up near our atmosphere. They're not moving around. One of the reports we had was something that came across the sky and came across fast across the sky, enough to where there should have been, you should have heard the sound barrier break. This is not a Chinese lantern. So
that would be a neat firework, though, a Chinese lantern that does it over the speed of sound.
Probably so. And I asked at the fireworks stands, too, I said, is this a fire hazard? And they said, no, that they go up, most of them not too high. They stay kind of below cloud level, depending on how humid it is outside. Missouri's pretty humid. They may stay kind of lower, but the candle will burn out. It'll just blink out, and then the paper will just come down and disintegrate. Or they'll float down. If they're not really high, the paper will float down into a tree.
Yeah, hopefully one doesn't land back on top of the fireworks stand and cause trouble that way. That would be bad.
Hopefully not. These are absolutely not the explanation for the balls of light that we've had, especially around Marley Woods. I actually videotaped one of those balls of light. Well, actually, 2 nights in a row, we videotaped something like that, and there was no explanation for that. That we know for sure that definitely was not anything that came anywhere near a Chinese lantern. And, that kind of, it bothers me, too, that's been an explanation now. It used to be, you've heard everything from swamp gas to, whatever, and now they're using Chinese lanterns as an excuse or as a reason why or I guess an explanation for some of these balls of light in the sky. But when you've got something that's high, that's traveling at high speed, or 2 balls of light that are dancing back and forth and shoot off into the sky, this is not a Chinese lantern.
Right.
So there's a definite difference between the 2.
Right. So there's more going on than just the lanterns. Do you have any sort of feeling at all about what is happening in the Marley Woods? I mean, do you think it is UFO ET, or do you think it might be some other paranormal type of events happening there?
My brother Chuck Zukowski and I were down there with Ted's team, and I think it's pretty mysterious. I don't think it's a natural phenomenon. I know that it's been around long enough to where back several years ago, I mean, we're talking maybe 60 years ago, they used to have something that the locals would call mineral light. And they thought that maybe these balls of light would come up and, that maybe that was minerals escaping from the ground. I mean, so they've been around a long time. But, you have to give something a name, and that's just what they called them. There's also these strange balls of light in the San Luis Valley, and the Native Americans there thought that they were the spirits coming up from the ground in the evening time. At night, I guess the spirits coming up and descending, or I guess ascending into the heavens. So balls of light like these have been around in the United States in several areas for a long time. I just saw a special on TV not too long ago where they're in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not really sure exactly what they are. I know the one that we saw just appeared, and it appeared for about 2 minutes. We had a team about a mile and a half away. They couldn't see the light, so at least we narrowed it down that it was coming. It was in the trees someplace in between. There weren't any houses. There weren't any roads. Just this orange ball of light appeared, and then it disappeared. Well, we played Chuck and I played the videotape back, and you could see it after it blinked out. It didn't blink completely out. We just didn't see it. It slowly moved downward again. This appeared in pretty much the same place about the same time 2 nights in a row, and then after that, they didn't see it again.
Wow.
So there's no rhyme or reason to this at all. We tramped through the area in the woods and thought maybe it was some kind of a security light. Maybe
well, we'll talk more about these. We got to go to break again, and we'll be right back. We're talking to Deddie Ziigamire. You're listening to Open Minds Radio.
Welcome back to Open Minds Radio. Here now, former official spokesperson for the Mutual UFO Network, your host of Open Minds Radio, Alejandro Rojas.
Welcome back. We are speaking with Missouri MUFON State Director Deddie Ziigamire, and you were talking about Marley Woods and your investigation into the orbs you saw there, and then I cut you off. And did you finish that up, or did you have more to say?
No, I think, you haven't asked me about it. We have a conference coming up.
Oh, I was going to get into that.
Oh, okay.
I want to save the best for last.
Oh, okay, because they'll be able to learn more about this.
Then they'll have it on their
Missouri investigators.
Yeah, then they'll be able to get out there and go straight from to the website, so they don't forget. But I want to get a couple of questions in before we get into the conference. One is someone from the chat. He was asking about, he says, are aliens early humans that hid underwater and then come up in their UFOs? What do you think of that theory?
Is the question, are aliens early humans that lived underwater?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the question?
Yeah.
I have no idea. I guess if we knew that for sure, that'd be the answer to the $1 million question.
Yeah.
I guess anything's possible. If you want to hide, that's a perfect place to hide, underwater.
Right. And then my question before we get to the conference is, what is one of your favorite investigations you've done lately?
Oh, my favorite investigation I've done lately.
Or maybe one that's been done in your state that you thought was really well done.
In my state? My gosh, we've got, it's an ongoing investigation I can't really talk about right now. In my state, we have a lot that's going on in Kansas City area right now. But I think actually the answer to the question is the favorite investigation I've done that my brother Chuck Zukowski and I have been working on Roswell for over 10 years. That's an ongoing investigation still with ongoing witnesses, new information. And probably my favorite part of any investigation that I've done was last year in July, I believe it was July 3rd, 2009. We were fortunate enough to take Jesse Marcel Jr. to the debris field where Mac Brazel found the debris. We took him there for the very first time. I'm not sure if everybody knows exactly who Jesse Marcel Jr. is, but in case you don't, Jesse Marcel Sr. was the officer, the 1947 Roswell incident. He was the officer that was holding the weather balloon that was used as the cover-up, that famous picture of him holding the balloon. Jesse Marcel Sr., Colonel Cavett, and they escorted Mac Brazel out after he had reported finding the debris. So we took Jesse Marcel Jr., who was witness to a piece of debris, or actually debris all over his kitchen floor that his dad had brought in about 1:30 in the morning, woke him up when he was an 11-year-old, and he actually got to hold and see debris from the 1947 crash, and this is the first time he had ever been to the place where the debris had been found.
Yeah, that is really
very
cool.
Enjoyable.
That is a great honor that you guys were able to be the first to do that. I know it was very important for him.
It was.
Now, one more question from the chat was, someone just asked if there have been reports of mantis extraterrestrial beings in Missouri that you know of.
No, not that I know of. I know that we've had Bigfoot in Missouri, but no, not any reports that I've seen, no.
Maybe the Bigfoot scared off the mantis ones.
That could be.
Now, let's get into the Midwest UFO Conference, August 14th to the 15th, being held by Missouri MUFON. That sounds exciting.
Yes, and actually it's Missouri MUFON, Quest, Missouri Investigating Group, and the UFO Study Group of Greater St. Louis. It's a joint venture across the state where we thought we would join forces. We'd get together. We'd all get to meet each other and share investigations. We're kind of co-hosting it. We've got my brother, Shug Zukowski, who's going to be talking about cattle mutilations in Colorado. We have Travis Walton, whose story was in a movie called Fire in the Sky. Mm-hmm. We have Margie Kay from Independence, who's going to have a workshop on remote viewing, teaching us the remote viewing. Gary Hart, who's going to be talking about Seymour, where there were cattle mutilations, and also Marley Woods. Joe Palermo, who's going to be talking about Missouri Bigfoot. Linda Eastburn about abductions. And Chuck and I will be talking again about Roswell and an update on what we found out there, and a lot more. We're going to hold an investigating MUFON field investigator course, so we've got a lot going on.
Cool, that'll be a lot of fun. It's always great.
Find out on our website.
Mm-hmm. MissouriMUFON.org is the website.
.org.
It's
and
always...
You can get a registration form there, and we still have registration open.
It's a lot of fun it's really good when groups get together to co-sponsor too, because there's so much, a lot of times, there's this territorial thing, and sometimes groups don't want to work together. I think it's really important when groups do kind of join forces.
Oh, exactly. We've come across investigations. I've come across investigations where there was another group working on the same investigation, different witness. And after 2-3 times of that, we decided to join forces, and Missouri is a bigger state than it seems. So the more investigations we have, the more people with their eyes open. Missouri even has sky watches. A couple times a year, we have people across the state just looking up all at the same time, keeping in touch to see if we can see anything.
Cool.
All the different groups working together. So we're hoping we're hoping in this state maybe to finally find some answers as to what's going on.
On those joint sky watches, have there been sightings?
We had a couple things that people just didn't, that weren't really sure what they were. Yes, we did. Of course, it was something odd in the sky, but, it was documented. But at this point, we've only done it, with me as being a state director twice. We had a couple of, like I said, unidentified things one time, and then the first time, it was really cold. Mm-hmm. It was one of those where people were calling in and saying, I think November's a bad choice. So we were really cold.
Yeah.
But, it was exciting to know that we have people across the state that were all looking up, and we had cell phone numbers, people online, and unfortunately we didn't see anything that night, but the next time we tried it, we did, have a couple reports of something strange.
Cool. Well, and our magazine should be out a few days before your conference, if not a couple days after, but you can go to the stores and then read about Travis Walton, because we have a story on him in this magazine. It's focused on abductions. Then you can have more poignant questions for him when you go and see him.
He'll be there signing books. His new book's out.
Oh, right.
It's got a whole new chapter, an update.
Mm-hmm. He's a lot of fun. He's such a great guy.
Oh, just such a gentleman. Just a real nice gentleman.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you have in Missouri any famous abduction cases like that you know of? Or even if it's not famous, just an interesting one.
Interesting abduction cases in Missouri. Yeah, we've not. I don't know necessarily if they're famous, but there have been reports, and I guess that's probably what Linda Eastburn's going to be talking about, because she's going to be talking about abduction cases in Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as famous ones like Travis Walton, I don't believe so. I don't know. I could be wrong. I slept for 3 hours. So.
Oh no! Well, not many cases get that famous. Well, I guess we got a couple minutes, exactly 2. I know you were on Sci-Fi's Investigates also, with the Sci-Fi Roswell special, where you guys went
archaeological dig
to do that archaeological dig. Where can people?
That was,
mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
Where can more people get more information about those digs?
Oh, you can go to www.ufonut.com to my brother Chuck Zukowski's website. There's information there. There's pictures of a piece of debris that we found, and we're still in the process of getting investigated, and some other interesting things that we found in the area.
And your brother truly is a nut. He's a crazy guy.
No.
Well, we're out of time. Thank you so much, Debbie, for being on the show in the middle of the night. MissouriMUFON.org is where you can go get more information on that conference in Missouri. It sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. It's always fun to be hanging out with Chuck and Debbie. So stay tuned. Thanks for listening to Open Minds Radio, your UFO news authority. Join us next week for more fun.